Oh, Hare Krishna, can you hear us?
Hare Krishna Maharaj.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. We had to reload Zoom, not Zoom. What's up? Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Right. So here we are with our Bhakti Shastri, Nectar of Instruction, ISKCON Pakistan, and ISKCON Anjana Sudha Academy. Next to our last session, and we're here in ISKCON Boise, Idaho, which is being leased from somebody else. Okay. So, can we share? We still go to share. Yeah, we can share. Okay. And we push our share button. And now, theoretically, you can see our screen. And we then go to Shift, Control, Alt, H. That takes away the toolbar. Okay. And then we minimize the whole screen. And we reduce what's up. And then we go back to our PowerPoint show. Okay. And here's our song from Geetavali. So again, maybe I will lead and somebody else can go ahead. One person can respond. And then everybody else keep microphones closed and you can just sing it in your ashram, because if we get more than one person, it may overload the communications. Oh hey Vaishnava Takura Doyar Sagar Edase Koruna Kori. Diya Pada Chaya Jodo Heya Maya Tumara Charana Dori. Chaya Begadomi Chaya Dosha Shodi Chaya Guna Daiho Dase. Chaya Sata Sangha Deho Heyamare Bosichi Sangera Oshe. Ekaki Amara Ekaki Amara Nahi Paya Bala Harinoma Sankirtane. Tumi Kripa Kore Shadu Bindu Dia Deho Krishna Navadane.
तुम्हें कृपा करे श्रद्धा बिंदु दिया देह कृष्ण नाम दाने.
Krishna se tomara, Krishna dite paro, tomara shakati ache.
कृष्णा से तुम्हारा कृष्णा देते पार तुम्हारा शक पिया छे.
Amito Kangala, Krishna Krishna Boli, Daitaba Pache Pache.
आमी तो कंगाल कृष्ण कृष्ण बोले देता वा पाछे पाछे.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Right. So again, a very, very wonderful summary of the whole Upadeshamrita. And so 6 pushes, if we can conquer those, we can give our association as guru to the entire world. But 6 things will make it difficult, okay, and 6 things will make it easy. Okay, 1, 2, 3. And then all of them are talking about association. So text 4, 5, 6 talks about how to associate with devotees, especially Majjhima Adhikari. And then text number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 6, 6, 6 talks about how to associate with Uttama Adhikari. Then 7, 8, 9, 7, 8, go back to the process. Tanama Rupa Chari Tade Sitapi Avidya Patopatapta. And it's saying that if we chant the holy names and then we start to worship the deity, and we read the Krishna book, Nama, Rupa, Charit, Sangha, Lila. Then one after another, all these things will manifest. But Bhakti Vinod Thakur says, I need your association to do that. Association gives us the strength to follow the process. And of course, how do we associate? In the beginning, we associate by following the process. So they're very, very much connected. But then he's also going to add the place. There's the association, the process, and where we do these things. Okay, because it's very natural. If you're in the temple, you associate with devotees and you follow the process. All connected. Very simple process. Simple process. Simple community. Wow, it's interesting. Okay. So then yesterday we started that. 7 talks about if you just follow the process, then you'll get free from your attachment, absorption, and material life, and you'll be able to. How is our volume? Is okay? Hello. Is that
Yes, Maharaj.
okay? Yeah, because I'm using a different microphone today. Yeah. Okay. Okay. So 7 then talks about becoming free from our absorption in material life, and then we begin to get a taste for spiritual life. Okay. Now text number 8 we're looking at today, and that describes, well, what do you do once you start spiritual life? And so then of course there's Raga Nuga Bhakti. It's still sadhana. Vaidhi Bhakti, Vidhi Bhakti, and Raganuga are both practice. But one is practiced by following the rules and regulations, engaging in devotional service that way. And Raganuga is by following the activities and character of a devotee. Okay. Then it becomes spontaneous, and we come to Bhava Bhakti. So let's go. So I think that's everything. Maybe we go ahead to the text here. I think we can just go to. Okay. So please repeat after me. Tanamarupa. Tanamarupa charita de su kirtananu. Shmrityo karamena rasana manasinyo ja. Tishtan Brage Tadanuragi Jananugami Kalem Nayed Akalim Iti Upadesh Sharam. So the Sanskrit seems pretty simple, straightforward here. Tat of Lord Krishna, Nama, the holy name, Rupa, form, Charitadi, character, pastimes, and so on. Sukirtana, in discussing or chanting nicely. Anushmityaho, and remembering. Okay. Kramena, it's like karma, no? Gradually, rasana, the tongue, manasi, and one's mind, Nyoja, engaging. Okay. Tishtan Vraje, residing in Braja. Tat, to Lord Krishna Anuragi, attached jana, person. Okay, somebody attached to Lord Krishna. Anugami, going after, following. Kalam, time. Nayat, should utilize akilam, full. Iti, thus. Upadesha Sharam. So this is Upadesha Amrita, and this is the essence of the essence of all advice. Okay, yeah. Next verses, we have translation here somewhere. Okay, I'm having, okay. So I'll go back over here, escape, hit the escape key again, minimize my PowerPoint show. Okay, and go to, I think this is it, yeah. Okay, translation. The essence of all advice is that one should utilize one's full time, 24 hours a day, in nicely chanting, remembering the Lord's divine name, transcendental form, qualities, and eternal pastimes, thereby gradually engaging one's tongue and mind. In this way, one should reside in Braja, Goloka Vrindavan, and serve Krishna under the guidance of devotees. And serve Krishna. Okay. One should follow in the footsteps of the Lord's beloved devotees who are deeply attached to his devotional service. One should follow in the footsteps. Okay. In Prabhupada's purport. And so looking at this, the first part of the purport, Prabhupada is discussing again the previous text. Previous text is getting free, and then it starts about Raganuga Bhakti. So in the beginning, it seems that Prabhupada is focusing on, again, the previous thing about being attached. Since the mind may be one's enemy or one's friend, of course, that's a verse from Bhagavad Gita, one has to train the mind to become his friend. Okay? Yeah. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for, we heard the same phrase before. One of my Vyasa Puja offerings one year, I just pretended that one Indian guy went to our Krishna Balaram temple and somebody sold him an Upadeshamrita. He was talking all about that. Yeah, yeah. And I went through all the places in Upadeshamrita, first instructions for neophyte devotees, where it talks about ISKCON, directly, more or less. So Prabhupada already said the purpose of ISKCON is creating an atmosphere where people can exchange these 6 different kinds of association. But now he's saying the Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind to be always engaged in Krishna's business. Yeah? Okay. My first temple president, Bhaktadas, when Prabhupada came to San Francisco for the Rath Yatra, he said, Prabhupada, what's it called? He said, selling your books is the best business. And Prabhupada said, yes, but don't make it a business. Yeah, a very subtle activity. Okay. So we're engaged in association, we're engaged in the process, but the mind has to be engaged. And not just that we're chanting formally. And some people I know, they say, I can't control my mind, but I'm just engaging and doing the process. Okay, yeah, but it's going to have an effect whether you like it or not. But if you trying to do it consciously and keep your mind focused, understanding, then there's a big difference. The Krishna consciousness movement is especially meant for training the mind to always be engaged in Krishna's business. The mind contains hundreds and thousands of impressions, not only in this life, but also of many lives of the past, called vasanas. These impressions sometimes come in contact with one another and produce contradictory pictures. Okay, yeah. In this way, the mind's function can be dangerous for a conditioned soul. students of psychology are aware of the mind's various psychological changes. Okay. And in general, for example, one family in California, we used to go to a place called Grass Valley up in the mountains, and it's on the Sierra Mountains, which separate California on the west coast from the whole big desert area there. And one family, Rick and Judy, and very, very creative people, very nice. She got initiated from Jayapataka Mars. So she had a daughter named Alexis, okay? And she said from the time that Alexis, as a little baby, could see, if anybody came in with a mustache, she would just go freak out, go crazy. Yeah! So cousins and uncles would want to come and see the baby if had a mustache, and then she would tell them, hey, oh no, it's okay. But every time. Okay. And then she said, by the time Alexis was about maybe 4 years old or 5 years old, she'd be walking with her through the market, and she wouldn't like scream and yell and everything if she saw somebody with a mustache or a beard there. Yeah, it was a beard, man. Okay, yeah, yeah. But if she was holding her hand in the walking, she could feel her holding onto her hand tighter. So I was using this as an example of karma, impressions from previous lifetime that the mind carries, you know. And then all over the world, and I met them a couple of years later, and I told her I was using her as an example of all this stuff. And she's an adult, and maybe 19 years old, 18 years old, And she said, yeah, it's a fact. And she said, but still, I would never date a guy with a mustache or a beard. Just like, and why? And who knows? Yeah. But it may be somebody that's very important to you, but because of this previous impression from your last lifetime is coming in contact and creating a difficult circumstance for you. Yeah. And so many of these things in psychology, of course, our background is in psychology, and there's so many things that we carry from previous lifetimes. So this verse, Bhagavad Gita 8:6, Yam yam vapi smaran bhavan. Yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. Tyajati ante kalevaram. Tam tam eva iti kontaya. Tadata bhava bhavita. Whatever state of being one remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. So the word remember here in our modern industrialized society, it basically remembers like what is the capital of Sacramento? You guys studying geography, right? Yeah. The capital of California. Oh, sorry, California. What is the capital? Where is the capital? Okay. It's a trick question there. Stay awake. Okay, what is the capital of Texas? Austin. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is what we call memory in the West. And it's remembering facts and so on. But here the word is yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. So this is more like translating to more like your attitude, your perspective. And of course, this is the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. And we were talking about it. In Hindi, it's Antarastrika Sri Krishna Bhavanamrita Sangha. So there we have Prabhupada giving a very technical description of what he means by consciousness, Bhavanamrita. And of course, the Bhava is the entire southern part of Nectar of Devotion. In Bhakti Shastri, we go through the eastern part, and there's I think two chapters or one chapter dedicated to Bhava. So it's introduced a little bit. Mostly in the eastern part is focusing on what is Bhakti, who can become a Bhakta, and then how to do Bhakti, sadhana Bhakti. And then it summarizes. It gives a little bit of Raganuga, a little bit of Bhava, a little bit of Prema. The Nectar of Devotion, the full southern part, is all about Bhava, which can be divided into 5 parts. Vibhava, Anubhava, Sattvika Bhava, Vyabhichari Bhava, and Sthai Bhava. Yeah. And this is how we break down Krishna consciousness. And it's very scientific. Rupa Goswami is praised by other religions for how systematic he presents this whole thing. And it's difficult too. It's like if you go to the Northern California, the coast there is so beautiful with these big waves coming in, and there are different shelves along the beach where little tidal pools exist with all kinds of little animals, and the waves will go up and they'll go back into each other, and it's very complicated. And this is what's happening with the rasa and braja, right? Different combinations and these things. So to try and explain this all scientifically, systematically, it's a challenge. But Rupa Goswami gives, a good practical scientific explanation for the people, for the age of enlightenment, the age of scientific enlightenment's coming, and you have to explain things in terms of these rational effects like that. When Lord Chaitanya, was there, was there European influence? Yeah, there was Middle East. Middle East was coming from that part of the world. Yeah, and these kind of atmospheres and stuff. So it was already, I think, the age of enlightenment. This is where we need a Krishna conscious timeline. I think it was starting, and that's when everybody started becoming, impressed by organization, Euclidean thought, basically, putting things into lines, making squares, connecting them. Yeah. But Baba, in the beginning of Upadeshamrita, from the preface, Prabhupada says one's advancement in Krishna consciousness depends upon the attitude of the follower. Okay, so that's your perspective, your attitude. That happens mostly in the heart. Okay, and on the basis of what your attitude towards life is, then you think about it. And that occurs in your mind, occurs in your head. I think, I feel, I accept and reject, and then I'm willing. Okay, yeah, I won't. Don't touch the cake. Take a slice of the cake. Yeah, thinking, feeling, and willing. But behind that in the heart is this attitude, this perspective. We give the example that when an airplane, is landing, one of our friends, a devotee, Tanu Krishna, is a 747 pilot. He was. He says, you ask any boy, would you like to fly an airplane? Says no. This guy's too smart. How about you? Would you like to fly an airplane? Okay, thank God. Okay, so ask any boy. These guys aren't boys, you can tell that. Four Kumaras. Say, yeah, okay. He said, yeah, out of those who are qualified to fly, it's not everybody. And it says there's a different qualifications required for flying a passenger plane from a cargo plane. Yeah. And he says, then out of the cargo plane, passenger planes, he says 747 is even more difficult. At that time, he said, there was not an automatic guidance system fast enough to land a 747 on a runway in tough weather. When you've got crosswinds and everything else, basically your vertical space is probably about the size of this room, basically like 3 meters. And you got to get this 157,000-pound airplane going at 160 miles an hour in that little space. Yeah, okay. One time, I'll tell a story here. One time, a 747 or whatever it was coming back from Taiwan or something to Australia. And most of the way back, and they made a whole documentary out of it with the people involved. And all of a sudden, the guidance system just started going crazy. It was simultaneously telling the pilot he was going too slow and he was going to crash, and he was going to go too fast, he was going to go up. And then the airplane suddenly just went into a dive because they thought it was going too high. The stewardesses were bounced off the ceiling, of the thing back there. The one lady, her spine was broken in 3 places. The plastic of the thing inside the thing was breaking. This is aviation plastic. And then it suddenly went down again. And everybody's being tossed everywhere and luggage and very happy flight. The pilot was trying to gain control and he couldn't do it. And he was a former Air Force pilot and stuff and tough things. So finally it stopped, and then it started again. And then he's yelling and screaming at the controllers down below in Australia, get me any airport you can, any airport. I got to get this thing out of the air. He said, look, there's a retired military airport here. It shows that it's not active, but it's still maintained. Okay, so finally he turns that direction. The thing's under control. It brings it down. It's a Saturday afternoon, and it was retired, but one little club of children with these little cars, go-karts, there's a club there, and all the families and parents are out there, maybe like 100 people, and most of them had finished racing their little go-karts there, and they're having their lunch with their chicken and whatever beer. Yeah. And all of a sudden, there are two little boys out there on their go-karts, and they're on the runway. They look up, and there's a 747 coming down at them. It's as big, it's as big as an apartment building. And of course, the pilot's sitting up here trying to wave through the window. So they decide what they would do is they would just run down the runway and just escape. But so finally, the last minute, they're smart enough just to run off the runway. And then he had the next problem of trying to land this 175,000-pound airplane on a runway, which was 400 feet too short. So anyway, you got to have a proper attitude. You've got to have the proper pitch. You've got to have the proper roll, and you've got to have the proper yaw. All these instruments are there when you come into the runway. So yeah, what is my attitude towards life? Ishwaraham, aham bogi, siddhaham, balahan sukhi. You can chant this every morning for 2 hours. Ishwaraham, aham bogi, siddhaham, balahan sukhi. Ishwaraham, aham bogi. I am the controller. And this is all in terms of controlling the mind. I am the controller. I am the enjoyer. Ishwaraham, aham bogi. I am perfect. I am powerful. Yeah. In many organizations in the world, they have mantras like this, right? Yeah. But this is not the attitude. The attitude is, again, I'm servant of Krishna. Yeah. So at the time of death, yam yam vapi smaran bhavam. What is your attitude towards things? What is your perspective? It's not this is the time of death, so I'll think about Krishna and everything will be okay. No, it's the attitude that you've cultivated. Okay. Whatever state of being, okay, it says state of being. One remembers when he quits his body, that state he will attain without fail. So this is text number 7. Yeah. At the time of death, the mind and intelligence of a living entity create the subtle form of a certain type of body for the next life. If the mind suddenly thinks of something not very congenial, one has to take a corresponding birth in the next life. On the other hand, if one can think of Krishna at the time of death, he can be transferred to the spiritual world, Goloka Vrindavan. This process of transmigration is very subtle. Therefore, Srila Goswami advises devotees to train their minds in order that they will be unable to remember anything other than Krishna. So, of course, this is very much text number 7. Similarly, the tongue should also be trained to speak only of Krishna and to taste only Krishna prasad. So, very simple yoga. Srila Goswami further advises Tishtan Vraje. One should live in Vrindavan or any part of Brajabhumi. Brajabhumi, or the land of Vrindavan, is supposed to be 84 kroshas in area. Okay, 84 krosh. 1 krosha equals 2 square miles. Yeah. So Vrindavan is how many square miles? You guys graduated mathematics, right? Yeah. 168. Yeah, 168 square miles. When one makes Vrindavan his residence, he should take shelter of an advanced devotee there. In this way, one should always think of Krishna and his pastimes. This is further elucidated by Srila Rupa Goswami in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, okay, which Prabhupada presented as a summary study as Nectar of Devotion. This is 294. So can you have 5, 2, 294? No. Yeah, because 1 means the eastern part, 2 means the southern part, 3 means the western part, and 4 means the northern part. So this is the eastern part, which is the basic Samanya Bhakti, basic principles of Bhakti like we were talking about. And then it's divided into waves, okay? Each section of the ocean. So this is the second wave, okay? And text number 294. And of course, Bhanu Swami has a whole translation of this. Also, David Haberman has a very nice translation. So very good access. Krishnam smaran janam chasya prestam nija samihitam tatat kata ritaschasau puryad vasam vraje sada. A devotee should always reside in the transcendental realm of Viraja and always engaged in Krishna smaran janam chasya prestam, the remembrance of Sri Krishna and his beloved associates, by following in the footsteps of such associates and by entering under their eternal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So this is Raganuga Bhakti. Mai Bhakti Bhutanam Amritatpaya Kalpate. By doing sadhana bhakti, vaidhi bhakti, following rules and regulations, Krishna says, yes, you can go to Vaikuntha. But he tells the gopis, but you have developed a different kind of bhakti for me. Okay. And because of that, yes, then I will come back to you. I'll leave my formalities of Dwarka and I'll go to the beauty and the intensity of Vrindavan. So this is Rupa Goswami's very confidential advice. And you see here, he's talking about, okay, acquiring the association of a devotee, but he says one of the eternal associates of Krishna. So if in the beginning of Raganuga Bhakti, okay, maybe you're thinking again, how does Mother Yashoda offer the lunch to Krishna? I'm offering the Raj Bhoga offering at noontime. Everything is proper. I'm following the rules and regulations. I'm never unhappy. I'm engaged 24 hours a day in the service of Krishna. And if anything happens, na sochati, na kamshati, my mind will adjust it. Of course, many levels of Majjhimadhikari. But boy, I'm not really feeling anything when I offer this to Krishna. Okay, so how does Mother Yashoda offer lunch to Krishna? How do the cowherd boys offer? Okay, yeah. And so maybe in the beginning, all the ladies are thinking about Mother Yashoda and how to do this. Okay, that's natural. And the guys are all thinking, well, how do the cowherd boys have lunch with Krishna? And how does Bhima do these things? Yeah, but as we go on, we become more purified and we get freer and freer from our bodily attachment. Goes on. But then in Raganuga, then somebody in a female body may be thinking that actually I have this Sakya Raj like Bhima. Okay, so yeah. And so, you don't do anything different in Raganuga Bhakti when you're in public than anybody else does. You do the same artik, the same things, but now it's how you do it. How you do it. And so looking at people, if you're more on that level, you can see that their mood of offering the artik is very heroic. Mother Malati says they built the temple in Bury Place in London. Someone gave them a very, very nice piece of proper temple in London. And I think George Harrison had the king's marble maker do all the marble for the floor. And then Shamasundar built a very, very beautiful altar to go right in front of the front piece, to go right in front of the altar. And then they invited the Lord Mayor and so many people to come for the opening of the temple. So many very prominent people there. All thing was on news. And when the Malati says they were resting Radha London Ishwar, and off the side they could see Prabhupada's Vyasasan from behind the curtain. And everything was getting very, very intense because they could tell Prabhupada was coming to the end of his lecture, and then they were going to open the curtains, right? And so at one point, then somebody stepped back from the altar and hit the column that Shamasundar had developed, and then they understood that Shamasundar was a good artist, but he was not a very good carpenter. Because the whole thing started to shake and the entire thing was going to fall down on Radha London Ishwar and crash them on television and destroy the the thing. So she said at that moment, everything went into slow motion. She said Prabhupada could see from where he was what was happening. So she said Prabhupada stepped right off of the ISKCON, came right forward with his left hand, cleared the paraphernalia from the steps. His right hand, he came up and grabbed Radharani's hand And she said she never saw such a display of gentlemanly behavior. It was like, Madame, please allow me to help you in this circumstance. And with his left hand, he pushed the column and held it up. Then it went back into normal time, and the human being started to respond. And she said it took 3 people to hold the column up that Prabhupada was doing with his left hand. You know, but this whole thing, she said, it was just, such a whole display like that. Yeah, yeah. So, so when we're living in Vrindavan, it's saying that we have to get the association of somebody on this higher platform. So if you're coming to Raganuga Bhakti, that means you're Goswami, man, woman, whatever. Okay. Jitatmana, Prasantasya, Paramatma Samahita. If you've conquered the Atma, the mind, Goswami, then Jitatmana Prasantasya, you're happy, Paramatma Samahita. Then you're in contact with the Paramatma. And so then your world is on a different level. Things are happening. You see that these things are happening for a certain reason. You open a book and a verse is right there. Well, it's objective, it's a verse. Yeah, but you know that Krishna did that and stuff. And it's the best guess. So yeah, we're in Vrindavan, we're Goswamis, Goswamis, and then all these things are happening. You see stuff happening, especially in Vrindavan. On the altar, in the temple, installed Radha Krishna deities. You're not in Kali Yuga. Yeah, if you're actually there. If you start thinking bad thoughts about people on the altar, you'll hit your leg or you put a pin through your finger. Yeah. In Dwapara Yuga, your thoughts have a reaction. In Kali Yuga, no. So you come off the altar sometimes, it's like, oh God, but when you're on the altar, you have to control your mind, you have to do things properly, everything else. So it's a great opportunity. When you're in Vrindavan, you're on the altar 24 hours a day. Yeah. I remember one time I thought some bad thoughts, and then the rocks and the ground started hitting me. Rickshaws tried to run me over. The sky was falling off. And I was like, I'm sorry. I won't do it again. Okay. Be careful. Yeah. 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 Prabhupada said, when you're go to Vrindavan, stay as long as you can. But once you can't lose control of your senses, he says, get out. Yeah. 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 Okay. The devotee should always reside in the realm of Braja, always engage in Krishna's smaran janam chasya. Okay. Follow the footsteps of such associates and Subal, on this level. You're associating with Nityasiddha people. Okay, Prabhupada, if his Nityasiddha form is revealed, then we can also follow Prabhupada in that sense. We can follow him as Vaidhi Bhakti, we can follow him on all these levels. Okay. Okay, and by entering under their eternal guidance, one can acquire an intense desire to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that then goes beyond Vaikuntha. We were on the Brajmandal Parikrama. How much time doing here? Okay, yeah. And I stopped counting at 7.5 times. But with Lokanath Maharaj, Radhanath Swami's Brajmandal Parikrama, it goes back every night. You get a chance to, take a bath and play different places. And they hear the katha in the evening. It's very good. It's very well organized. And so many people too. Then they go out to these different places and visit during the daytime. And they've already heard all the katha to some degree, so they can, focus. But with Lokanath Maharaj, for the part thing, once you pull out Krishna Balaram for 1 month, you're living in Braja. Hari Sori was with us 1 year, and after 3 days, he said, "Look at my hands," and his hands were shaking. And he said, "Usually I'm on the computer at least 3, 4, 5 hours every day, and my hands are having this physical withdrawal like a drug addict." Not being able to, yeah. After about 3 or 4 days in the Brajmandal Parikrama, you begin to dream of rope, dirt, cows, all the things that you're singing 24 hours a day. One devotee came with us 1 year. I'm getting into the next text. It's okay. One devotee came with us the next 1 year, and no, these were German devotees, and they had been German army soldiers, German soldiers in the German army, like that, And he said, the Brajmandal Parikrama with Lokanath, he said, if you can do this, you can be a soldier in the German army. Like that is so tough, that same year, actually the same time, there was one of my disciples there, and he'd been a Green Beret in Spanish thing, even more intense. And I asked him, "Is that true? You know, what's the level of conditioning?" And he said, when we were at Green Berets, we did things that were more intense than what we're doing right now, but on a prolonged basis, no. We never did anything that was more challenging than having to do this. You know, you're walking barefoot, you know, if thorns are out to get you, you know, the water for your buckets. Okay, you got to go out in the field and do your business and sleep on the ground every day. And there's very well good breakfast, good lunch. They're cooking very nicely. And then one of another disciple, she said it's like having 2 Sunday feasts every day because it wasn't like rich, but it was very organized. So you're taking this and you take too much, and your body says, okay, we can't digest this. Your body tells you, look, I can run the cooling system. I can run the what do you call it, the digestive system, and I can run the locomotion system, but I cannot run all three at the same time. So until you figure out what you're doing, I'm opening up the water here and just dumping everything out. So then another disciple, same thing. He said, I'm eating less than I ever ate any time in my life, but I have more energy. Because sadhana bhakti, you have to eat just the right amount. You have to figure what you're doing. So even on the level of sadhana bhakti, it's just wonderful. Vrindavan is the wonderful place. You know? But then, okay, if you become a Goswami at that level, then you're out of this. And then you begin to see these pastimes, and you start having thoughts about them and so on. And then you can say, well, I would like to be, I'll go on here, I'll read on. Prabhupada's going to explain this. Okay. So that's Bhakti Rasamrita 1-2-294. Okay. And again, Rupa Goswami says, 1-2-295, Seva Seva Karupena, Siddha Rupena Chatrahi, Tad Bhava Lipsuna Karya, Braja Lok Anusarataha. In the transcendental realm of Braja, one should serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, with a feeling similar to that of his associates. And one should place himself under the direct guidance of a particular associate of Krishna and should follow in his footsteps. This method is applicable both in the stage of sadhana, spiritual practices executed while in the stage of bondage, and in the stage of sadhya, God realization, when one is a siddha purusha, or spiritually perfect soul. Yeah, so even in Vrindavan, after we are in our spiritual bodies, we're still serving Krishna under the different devotees like that. Again, the Brajmanda Parikrama, very nice. We were in the morning, we get up in time for Mangal Arati, about 4 o'clock, get everything together. Then right afterwards, when the lights just started to come, first light, we start marching because before it gets hot. You know? So one day we were marching after several days, and we're going from one holy place to another, maybe 400 people in a line like that. And I was marching along and just looking at the feet of the person in front of me. And I looked off to my left, maybe about from here to where the corner is, you know, about to what was it, 30 meters or something. And okay, yeah, there was a little compound. It looks like an extended Brijabasi family, maybe 2 major buildings, some smaller buildings and animals. And somehow or other, I could see all the way across there. And there were 2 brothers that looked like, or something, cousins. And they were kind of arguing about who had to go find the cow, or some cow hadn't come back, and both of them had so much work to do. And who, no, you should go look for him. No, you should go look for him. So finally, it looked like one of them kind of lost the argument, and he was going to go and look for the cow. You know? And so I was thinking, hey, you can only become a Brijbasi by the mercy of the Brijbasis. That thought was going through my head. And so I was looking over at him at a distance, and he looked up and looked right at me out of all these people. And then I kind of nodded my head, can I be a Brijbasi? And he nodded his head, yes, you can be a Brijbasi, but you have to go find the cow. So, yeah, yeah. So the Brijbasis are not greedy. Hey, there's more than enough work here for everybody. So if you want to be a Brijbasi, but hey, this is what it means. You've got to get into the practical work of living here and get your full self. Okay. So even as Siddha Purush. Okay, and now we see again Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati's commentary. Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur has commented as follows upon this verse. Wow. Okay. One who is not yet developed, this is quote, Prabhupada is a quote, so now Prabhupada is not even like paraphrasing exactly, he's giving an exact citation. One who has not yet developed interest in Krishna consciousness should give up all material motives and train his mind by following the progressive regulative principles, namely chanting and remembering Krishna and his name, form, qualities, pastimes, and so forth. So when I was reading this, the problem I was having is that if you have no interest in Krishna consciousness, then why should you take up the regulative principles? So I think the word interest here means no spontaneous attraction, no taste, and a thing like that. Okay, so you don't have a taste for it, but I don't want to go to hell. This does seem like it's actually a practical thing in terms of religion. So somehow or other, you have some, logical understanding of why you should be doing this. Okay, so what does it say? Okay, if you got that, then you should take to the process. Give up all material motives. Follow the four principles. Yeah, okay. And then follow the progressive rules and regulations. So then, yeah, you start getting up early, you start coming to Mongol Artik, you start chanting 16 rounds. And there's a whole progressive process by which we can get ourselves engaged until finally you take second initiation. And by that point, you engage in full service to the deities, and it's a full process. And then you can intensify it. Okay, we'll go on here. In this way, after developing a taste, ruchi, for such things, one should try to live in Vrindavan and pass his time constantly remembering Krishna's name, fame, pastimes, and qualities under the direction and protection of an expert devotee. This is the sum and substance of all instructions regarding the cultivation of devotional service. So some of us may just be on the platform of a doshrada, sadhusanga, bhajana kriya. We're coming to the temple, we're chanting Hare Krishna, but we can see that I cannot be a full-time temple devotee. If you're actually living in an ashram, brahmachari, brahmacharini, and grihastha ashram, for example, in Los Angeles, right across the street, there's always apartment buildings, right? They all belong to the temple. But devotees that live there are expected to be full-time engaged. Prabhupada said if somebody is living in temple apartment, taking temple prasad and getting dhoti and kurta, okay, they can keep 15% of their Sankirtan collections, for personal needs like that. Okay, so they have 15% independence or something. Yeah. And the brahmachari, brahmacharini, you're even more involved like that. So basically, when you're living in a proper ISKCON temple, you're living in Vrindavan. Yeah. So whether you go to live, so if you can live in the temple, then you're ready to try and live in Vrindavan. Yeah. And especially Prabhupada even arranged it. I mentioned this one devotee was a French devotee who said that he realized that he never regretted getting up from Mongol Artik one time when he actually made the choice to do it. Same devotee was pretty good distributor, French Canadian out there. And for my second year, he just taken initiation or something, and he was doing so well, with book distribution. He said, okay, you have to come to Vrindavan. We're going to go with our party, and you've won the right. So he said they got to Krishna Balaram temple, and then they were checking into their rooms and everything else. And he decided, okay, I'm going to go take off and distribute books. So he said he went out in front of the Krishna Balaram temple, and he stopped this first Brijbasi guy who was walking by and showed him the Krishna book. And he said, this is Krishna, Supreme Personality of Godhead. The guy looked at the book and he said, well, yeah, but here he's just one of us. And he walked on like that. And he said it was so strong. The impression was, the guy was, yeah. I said, oh, you want to see him? He's around the corner now. I'll take you there. And he said he just like when a little dog meets a big dog, his tail goes right down. He said it's exactly what happened. He suddenly realized looking around him. So he said he ran back over inside the Krishna Balaram temple and with the lot in the patio there, and he said he was looking out through the iron bars, like, at all these people, so on. So Prabhupada created for us, right? He created, ISKCON temples and centers, places, and to have proper relationship in Vrindavan. So we can try it out, we can do it. Okay, so if you can live in an ISKCON temple, okay, then you're ready to try living in Vrindavan. Okay, right? ISKCON, right? Never leave it, right? If anybody tells me to leave ISKCON, I will cut out his tongue. If anybody tries to drag me out of ISKCON by force, I will kill him. I will never leave ISKCON. Jai Haribo. Okay. Yeah. Okay. This is the sum and substance. Okay. Now, Bhaktisiddhanta is going to go through some more details, technical details. In the neophyte stage, one should always engage in hearing Krishna Katha. This is called Shravana Dasha, the stage of hearing. By constantly hearing the transcendental holy name of Krishna and his transcendental pastimes, form, qualities, etc., as in Bhagavad Gita, one can attain the stage of acceptance called Varna Dasha. So you're hearing, and suddenly it goes, you go, aha, oh, wow, huh. Yeah. Kapila, explaining the whole yoga process, says, yeah, immerse the mind in the yoga, do it. You take a very, very dry sponge, you put it in water, and you take it out. What happens? Nothing. You can just shake the water off, right? Yeah. He says, keep it in there, keep it in there. What happens? You'll see it. The water's not going in. You're doing it. You're hearing and chanting. But at some point, in one little place, it'll start to penetrate, right? Or maybe a couple places. Then you'll see it start to spread. So that's just what I would say is Shravana Dasha. You're forcing yourself to do it. You know I should do it. But then at some point, some fact, something you relate to that. Oh, that's like this, that's like that. Oh, wow. And then you can expand it. It's the same as the bija, some point. Okay. One can attain the stage of acceptance, accepting this. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to hearing Krishna Katha. Prabhupada said it is very, very mysterious, but after a full day of engaging in karma yoga, under the direction of the spiritual master, building the Rath Yatra cart or cooking or doing sales or whatever you can do. He says, after doing a full day's work of that, hearing Krishna Katha is extremely relishable. And notice that you're listening to the same Bhagavad Gita, but now it's just somehow or other, it's just so relishable. Okay. When one attains this stage, he becomes attached to hearing Krishna Katha. When one is Bhaktisiddhanta, when one is able to chant in ecstasy, he attains the stage of Smaran Avastha, the stage of remembering. Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. You can hear about Krishna, you can tell people about Krishna, but you have to come to the level of meditation, contemplation, this kind of thing. The first level of Smaranam, this is in 523, 7.523, Sravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam. So remember, Prabhupada says the first level of Smaranam is logical understanding, right? You put things in place. So this is here, this will substitute for this is this way, and you develop your logic about it like that and stuff. What we're doing right now. Yeah. And that's the first level of smaranam, of recollection. Because now you can contemplate things. You got these things, and you can put them in places. Okay. The stage of remembering. Okay. Recollection, absorption, meditation, constant remembrance, and trance are the 5 items of progressive Krishna Smaranam. Okay, now he's going to kind of explain them. Yeah. So how many people are on this level? What level are you on now? Okay, yeah. At first, remembrance, Smaranam, of Krishna may be interrupted at intervals. You're doing this and that, but you forget about Krishna, and this, oh yeah, then you remember Krishna and my service and stuff. Okay. When many people are pure devotees during the morning program, then as soon as you get out, it's like, and it gets worse. But then you come back, you do the evening program, you take a bath, you come down. I remember they come down right in front of the altar and Kiba Jayo Gora Chandir. And I just remember everything is washing away, all the mental stuff and is gone like that and so on. Okay, but it's interrupted. Okay. When remembrance becomes uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and is called meditation. So from the list above, we have recollection, absorption, and meditation. Okay. When it is uninterrupted, it becomes concentrated and it is called meditation. When meditation expands and becomes constant, it is called anusmriti. Looking up above here, we have constant remembrance. Okay. Anusmriti, constant remembrance. Okay. By uninterrupted anusmriti, by uninterrupted and unceasing anusmriti, one enters a stage of samadhi or spiritual trance. It sounds like bhava. After Smarna Dasha or samadhi is fully developed, the soul comes to understand his original constitutional position. At that time, he can perfectly and clearly understand his eternal relationship with Krishna. That is called Sampati Dasha, the perfection of life. I am a cow. My name is Clarabelle. I give strawberry milk. Yeah, Baba, you know your relationship. It may not be fully in prema yet, but now you know who you are, what everything. So this is possible. Yeah, even for Mormons. Okay. Chaitanya Charitamrita advises, Bhaktisiddhanta continues, those who are neophytes to give up all kinds of motivated desires and simply engage in the regulative principles of devotional service of the Lord according to the directions of Scripture. In this way, a neophyte can gradually develop attachment, asaktis, for Krishna's name, fame, form, qualities, and so on. When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna, even without following the regulative principles. So, of course, we always use the example of Jayananda, who we think is a Nityasiddha personality, maybe. Yeah. But we had this association, and Prabhupada said, put his picture on the Rath Yatra card. He went back to God and everything else. So his external body was a mechanical engineer, which basically means a Shudra, but a very qualified Shudra stuff. So he built the first Rath Yatra carts from wood and metal, and did all these really incredible things. But his Brahmin thread was black from automobile grease. Yeah. And he said he would forget the mantras sometimes. Yeah. Everything else. Yeah. Yeah. And sometimes he wasn't in Mangalarti. Well, how can he even be a Vaidya Bhakta? Why? Because the produce market in San Francisco would open up like about 4 o'clock in the morning, and hotels and every place was there. It was maybe like 2 blocks wide and 5 blocks long or something, just unlimited people coming for restaurants and schools and all this kind of stuff. So he would go there early in the morning, and not only would he get the commercial deals of buying in bulk, but he would get people to donate stuff and so on, which we could use and stuff. Okay, so he would leave in the morning early. He had a big cube truck, old red thing falling apart, put together, and he would grab a couple new bhaktas to go with him, right? But when they were going there, he would sing the Gurvastika while I was driving along and bouncing and screaming and yelling. Yeah, so they sang the whole Mongol Arctic song when they're going there with Jayananda. And they'd be loading and unloading and talking about Krishna and this, we can't offer that to the deities, this and that. Then he would get back, put everything away and this and that. And I would do my treasury work, from I think 8:30, something like that, in the morning after breakfast and stuff. So many times I was finishing the treasury work. He finished doing everything, and he would grab me and say, let's read the Krishna book or something. So we sit down in the treasury room and then we read from the Bhagavatam and stuff like that and have some discussion. So after a while, I began to notice that everything was there. He had the Gurvastika, he had class, and he had to have it. It was like, he spontaneously was able to keep the full program, without actually following the curriculum, the standard like that, and so on. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Huh? When one has developed such attachment, he can spontaneously serve the lotus feet of Krishna, even without following the regulative principles. It doesn't mean the 4 regulative principles. It means the regulative principles of hearing and chanting. This stage is called Raga Bhakti, or devotional service and spontaneous love. At that stage, the devotee can follow, we would say, Raga Nuga, following the footsteps of one of the eternal associates of Krishna in Vrindavan. This is called Raga Nuga Bhakti. Raga Nuga Bhakti, or spontaneous devotional service. Okay. Now, you may think that only Braja Bhakti is spontaneous, but this is the way Prabhupada defines it. Vaidya Bhakti is Raga Nuga Bhakti, is spontaneous devotional service. Bhava Bhakti is ecstatic devotional service. And Shuddha Bhakti is pure devotional service. And looking at it in Prabhupada's books, he'll say, oh, Maharaj Bharata achieved the level of ecstatic devotional service. Yeah, you can see it's Bhava Bhakti. So Prabhupada is standardizing the English language. He's giving us a spiritual vocabulary, the way he uses the words. Okay. And if you are a Brahmin or something like that, you're reading Prabhupada's books every day, you become accustomed to using the same words he does. I think this is called diction. Yeah. Different words will work, but certain words, we use them. You can distinguish somebody from South America. I'm going to South America, I'm reading the airline magazine. It's in English, but you can tell it was not written by an English speaker because they're selecting certain words that we don't use that word, although it's correct. You know? So Prabhupada uses certain words, you become conditioned as a Brahmin to hearing and chanting and talking about this stuff. Administrators I know, they support the Brahmins, they do their job, everything else, but they don't preach because they're not like absorbed in this kind of stuff. They're absorbed in how to deal with hot situations and deal with this kind of stuff. We hired a karate guy to be our security guard at the Sunday feast in Berkeley because all these crazy people were coming in. And I had a black belt. I talked to him and I knew everything that he knew, but he was working out every day. He was being conditioning himself to being hurt. He said, that's part of the thing. You gotta, yeah. So I could see that, yeah, he could do it, right? Because he was conditioning himself to being a Kshatriya, you know, whereas I wasn't conditioned that way, you know, okay. So what is it here? Okay. Raganuga, okay, or spontaneous devotional service can be executed in Shantaras, okay, when one aspires to be like Krishna's cows, or Krishna's stick, or the flute in Krishna's hand, or the flower garland around Krishna's neck. Yeah, so these are all everything in Vrindavan is alive. But this is Shantaras in Vrindavan. So Shantaras other places is not the same as Shantaras in Vrindavan. Okay, so this is Krishna's flower garland. Vrindavan Damahima Rita, Krishna, that was his name. Prabodhananda Saraswati says, if you roll around in the dust of Vrindavan, right? Yeah, it will be very easy for you to obtain the same destination as that fortunate handful of pearls, which was personally strung into a garland by Krishna and hung around the neck of Radharani. If you roll in the dust of Vrindavan, it will be very easy to obtain this destination. Yeah, hanging around the neck of Radharani. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Wow. Okay. So that's an aspiration. Some people want to be the dust in Vrindavan. Okay. Yeah. But this is the dust in Vrindavan. In the Dashya Ras, one follows in the footsteps of servants like Chitrak, Patrak, Raktak. Our first disciple we named Raktak. Another one named Patrak is a devotee from Peru, and Chitrak was a devotee from Argentina. So we have, yeah. In the friendly Sakya Ras, one can become a friend like Baladev, Sridham, and Sudam. In the Vatsalya Ras, characterized by parental affection, one can become like Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda. And in Madhurya Ras, characterized by conjugal love, one can become like Srimati Radharani or her lady friends, such as Lalita, and her serving maids, Manjaris, like Rupa and Rati. This is the essence of all instruction in the matter of devotional service. Jai, Prabhupada ki jai. So, again, this is Prabhupada said there should be a copy of this book in every house in the world. And you think it's so advanced, but it's just giving a summary. It's an introduction to all these things. And again, I think one project, I think you can just map this right onto Nectar of Devotion, each section like that, how it's more advanced and so on. Okay. Okay. So now we're going to ask if any of our paying students, in the chat here, there's a chat, and it's from Madhavan Das. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please set my obeisances, my humble obeisances unto your lotus feet. Now, do I have lotus feet or do I have lotus hoofs? Aha! Because right now, you and I have neither one. Exactly. Yeah. Okay. So, any questions or comments here? I think I push. How do I push this? I push this here. Okay. I see. Okay. I see as usual. Kitija Kumari. Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Netik. Visham. Okay. Premna Devwani. Prina Mulani. Okay. Looks like everybody is taking this class to get initiated. Yeah. What else we
Hare
got?
Krishna.
Okay, somebody has their hand up.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Maharaj, Hare Krishna. I want to ask Maharaj, kindly please clear the differentiation between Raganuga Bhakti, static Bhakti, and third one, which was that? And please summarize them in simple words.
Yeah. Because your voice is coming 10,000 miles, it's a little distorted. Can you type it into the chat? Yeah. Okay. Netik says, does Radharani come in Sakya Ras? Okay. Okay, that's okay. First off, that's Netik. She's saying, does Radharani comes in Sakya Ras? Okay. Some people say that Shanta Ras is not actually a rasa. The Prabhupada, even in our Sampradaya, but the Prabhupada says, okay, whether it is a rasa or not, it's the basis of everything else. Okay, there's nobody more expert at Shakya Shanta Ras than the gopis. Right? That's the basis of I'm not attached to the material world. I just Krishna is wonderful, Krishna is beautiful. It's the basis of everything else. It's respect, these kind of things. Okay. But then if you want to go all the way up to Madhurya Ras, your foundation has to be very great. If you've got a one-story building, you've got a very simple foundation. We have friends who are architects. You've got a 40, 50-story tall building. Hey, your foundation is a whole nother thing. Your foundation may be three stories deep, to do it properly and stuff. So if you want to go all the way up to Madhurya Ras and engage in conjugal relationship with Krishna, then your Shanta Ras has to be really deep. So that's what happens. Every rasa includes the previous rasas. So Radharani is the mother of all the cowherd boys. She's always kind of looking out after them in terms of the mother and what's going on, and what something upset you. Why are you upset? Yeah. So Radharani it does include she is Krishna's friend, and stuff like that. Copy to Raja Hare Krishna. This is all glory to Srila Prabhupada. Okay. Gitika Kumari. Hare Krishna Maharaj, please summarize in simple words the difference between the states of devotion, Raganuga, ecstatic, and third one. I don't know how please to explain this in simple words. So I think you mean Raganuga, Bhava Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. Okay. So Rupa Goswami, in the beginning, when you study, if you haven't studied Nectar of Devotion yet, you'll study the eastern part. And again, he starts off by explaining what is bhakti. Prabhupada says one man may say, I have so much bhakti for the demigods. I have so much bhakti for my wife. When I don't see her, I cry. Prabhupada said, this is not bhakti. This is lust. Okay, yeah. So he starts off, what is bhakti? Then he also says, okay, well, who can be a bhakta? And so that's the first part, maybe the first couple waves in the ocean on the eastern side. And that's what we study in Bhakti Shastri. Okay. Then he starts to go through and he says, okay, there is sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. So in each of these, there's two qualities that you acquire, one after another, and so on. So then he goes into great detail in sadhana bhakti, practice. There are certain activities which will stimulate our natural reactions. This is called sadhana bhakti. And he divides it into two categories. Vaidhi Bhakti means when you're following the rules and regulations. Okay, I got to get up this time. I got to do my chant, my rounds. I have to worship the deities. Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is how I do it. What should I cook for Krishna? So you have the rules and regulations are there, and spiritual master, he gives them to us and for our time, place, and circumstance, our nature. Okay, yeah. And then okay, if you do that again, they liberate you, they stimulate you. Now, like we're talking about it, you can begin to imitate an advanced devotee. Subal, Lalita. This is advanced. But you're seeing, okay, that's how they think, that's how they do these things. So you're still practicing because you can't do it yourself, but in your more liberated state, then you can begin to see, okay, that's how they do it. I can feel that. I can follow that. So again, your teacher, if you're doing a kirtan with Prabhupada or some devotee like that, you may be able to chant in this mood and these feelings and so on. So you can follow. This is pretty advanced. So that's Raganuga, going after the raga, but it's still practice. We give the example of a car with a starter motor. You turn the starter motor on, you turn the key, it goes. Okay, nothing's happening. You know it's the starter motor. But then at some point, the real motor kicks in. Yeah, then you turn the key off. You stop doing raga nuga because now your own real feelings are coming, and now I have to cultivate those rather than cultivating the practice. So that's bhava bhakti. Bhava bhakti. Yeah. And Prabhupada's translating it as ecstatic, when you become ecstatic. And because of that, okay, then you fully wake up and you're back to your original relationship with prema bhakti, and you take up where you were before you came into Maya. So sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, prema bhakti. And Rupanuga, which we're discussing today, is a part of sadhana bhakti. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj.
Okay. So what level are you on? Yeah. That's
Uh,
the yeah. Probably Vaidhi Bhakti, no?
yes.
Well, I don't know. Maybe you're a Nityasiddha Gopi incarnated to give us lessons. Smiling. Aha. Okay. Kapil Vajadas, Tripura. As I am your disciple, so how happy to you in my devotional service, Guru Maharaj. Okay, Kapil Vaja. That's a name for Arjuna. Mananda Bazar. Okay. So any other questions or comments here, maybe from our studio audience? We have a question from Radhika Raman Das. Okay.
So, Maharaj, the example of the sponge and also the starter motor.
Okay.
So, does that mean that progress goes faster later? Sometimes it feels that it takes so long to just get to Nishta and get to the beginnings of Ruchi. It's just like it's so much work that if it took that long for everything else, then it would.
Yeah.
Does it go? Does it move faster later?
Okay. If you're flying from what airport is close to Bombay?
The capital of Shivadi.
Okay. How long does the flight take?
From here to Bombay?
No, what is there some airport, regional airport?
Oh, near Bombay.
Yeah.
Oh, like Pune.
Okay, and how long does that take?
I don't know, maybe 15 minutes or something.
15 minutes, okay. But how long does it take you to get to the airport? Yeah. So that's what's happening exactly, But you may be next door to the airport. Yeah. So yeah, it's just a different thing when you're doing sadhana bhakti. Your progress. Don't try and I'm not crying and I'm not rolling on the ground. Hey, that's But then you take it and look at sadhana bhakti. And you look, yeah, I stopped smoking and drinking, and I'm yeah, this is good. I'm satisfied. Wow, this is nice. Very nice. So different levels. There's just a different test. But once you get in the airplane, then it's a whole different process. Now you're going at 300 miles an hour. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Then you come down again. Okay, whatever. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So it's this, you can't kind of like you can't compare them exactly, whether it's faster or not. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
that makes sense. And this, you said the starter motor, you stop at that point, Raganuga stops because.
Yeah. Okay. Again, I think it's not a good analogy because when you turn the starter motor on, when the real motor starts, if you're sitting there with the starter motor still going, people would stop it because it will tear it up. So what you do is you turn the key off and stuff, and the starter motor disengages at that point. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the same way, if you're if you're starting to have these sentiments and emotions and stuff, and what was it? It was like somebody was doing Guru Puja for Prabhupada after the class in Mayapur, and he said it went on for 40 minutes, the whole kirtan and everything else, and he was feeling so much ecstasy and stuff. But that's not how long you do Guru Puja. It's for a certain time, and you're supposed to stop. But no, at this point, right? At this point, you just let the raga take over, right? And then you stop following the rules and regulations. Yeah. And yeah. So you do it a little differently and stuff. And if you don't do that, what's going to happen is it's going to tear up the rules and regulations and stuff. And just internally it's being carried on. Yeah. 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 One example again we gave before, Rupa Goswami gives us example that in your Siddha Purush, in your eternal form, you may have a big heart or a small heart. And they're both fine, or you may have a butter-like heart or a diamond-like heart. Okay, they're both fine. But he gives the example that somebody who has a small butter-like heart cannot be an acharya for common people. The Encyclopedia Britannica talks about Lord Chaitanya, and it says he was a religious epileptic. And he himself confessed that he had headaches and stuff. Yeah, can't understand it. Guy's crazy, everything else. So did Prabhupada have a small butter-like heart? Now we can apply this very practically, looking at the Acharya. No, no, because what happens is with just a little bit of stimulation, your heart melts. And because you have a small heart, you can't cover it. If you're trying to hide, I tell you, hide an elephant, hide a baby elephant in the temple. Yeah, I'm going to put it. Yeah, yeah. But if I tell you to hide a rat in the temple, okay, we can do it, or hide a baby elephant in Boise. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, so Tamal Krishna, because sometimes you see Prabhupada would go into ecstasy. One time, one lecture, Prabhupada is saying, was it coming to the temple and asking something from Krishna is not pure devotional service. He said it's good. It's just accepting Krishna as being powerful, right? Like that. But he said it's not pure devotional service. He says the Brijbasis, they never asked anything from Krishna. And then it's quiet on the tape, and it gets quiet for a longer time, and you hear devotees kind of coughing or whatever. Yeah, because thinking about the Brijbasis and their sentiments and their sacrifice, Prabhupada was stunned, which is via Bichari Baba, I think, whatever. Yeah. And so then you see after some time you hear Prabhupada saying, Hare Krishna. He's like, not angry, but he's just squeezing it out, So another time Tamal Krishna Maharaj said, he asked Prabhupada, he said, Prabhupada, sometimes you have these ecstatic moments and we don't know what to do. Then Prabhupada said, but I don't do it very often. Yeah, meaning that he was, feeling like, I'm doing my job, I'm controlling these things, and you don't do that in public and so on. Yeah. So we begin to see that, these things are practical, especially when you're dealing with someone like Prabhupada. You begin to understand, and you understand, okay, I gotta, my level, I keep my distance, Yeah. Chanaka Pandit says one should not get too close or too far away from three things: a king, a fire, or a Brahman. Okay, because if you get too close, you'll get burned. You get too far away, you derive no benefit. If you're too close to the king, when they come to assassinate the king, yeah, okay, you get too close to the fire, you get burned. And if you get too close to Prabhupada, there are disciples, devotees talking about getting to, socially and intimately. And, Prabhupada gave his own example that one time he was in the like a Tandal type program, traveling thing. And there was one older gentleman there, a very nice person. And each month he was giving a donation to Bhaktisiddhanta. And Bhaktisiddhanta was lecturing. And this older gentleman couldn't understand Bhaktisiddhanta's very erudite diction, his very high class words and stuff. And he says, "What is Maharaj saying? What is Maharaj saying?" So Abai, was explaining softly, maybe backwards in the audience someplace, but it was bothering Bhaktisiddhanta. Prabhupada says. So Bhaktisiddhanta directly said, "So what are you doing? Abai, so and so. Do you think you can explain things better than your spiritual master? And do you think that by your donations you have purchased me, you can do whatever you want to do?" And then Prabhupada said it was like 10,000 volts of electricity going to his body. He said he couldn't sleep for at least 24 hours and stuff. So anyway, he says, you have your Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada told Hari Sori, and I have my Srila Prabhupada. Yeah. So you begin to understand that, don't get too close. Don't get too far away. Another time, the Kirtanananda took Prabhupada to some public park near New Vrindavan, and they brought all the dried bread they had to feed the ducks. So Prabhupada was throwing ducks to the bread to the ducks, and the ducks were grabbing some and running back away. And then Prabhupada told Kirtanananda, he said, "Just see Kirtanananda. The ducks that come closer get more bread." Yeah, some of them get caught and eaten too. Okay, yeah. So any other questions? I don't know if should we stop today?
Maharaj,
Tomorrow,
this is Uttam Bhaktas. I have a question if we have time.
Yeah, we have 27 minutes because we are German.
Okay, that's plenty of time.
I'm not from Pakistan. If somebody tells you in Pakistan that dinner will be at 5 o'clock, what does that mean? Will dinner be at 5 o'clock?
In my opinion, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock maybe, because they announce at the weddings they announce 9 o'clock dinner and get served 1 in the morning or 12, or midnight or something. So
it's a very cross-cultural studies of time. It's very interesting. But in Germany, if it's going to be at 5 o'clock, it's at 5 o'clock, not 5:01. Yeah. So and everybody has their time. Okay, so we have 26 minutes.
Okay. My question is about Nitya Baddha and Nitya Mukta. These are the two terminologies that we have in our books. So, and both have Nitya in it, and both have Nitya. So how can a Nitya Baddha be a Nitya Baddha, or Nitya Mukta can become a Nitya Baddha? Can you please throw some light on that? Because it gets, especially Nitya Baddha gets very complicated, is because when you're saying Nitya Baddha, then when that Nitya Baddha goes to the spiritual world or achieves the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, then at that time he's not Nitya Baddha. Though, so in that case, the terminology Nitya Baddha doesn't apply properly in my calculation. Can you clarify that?
And this goes right into the question of origin of the jiva, which is a big argument, because some people say that we were sayukta mukti before we came to the material world, and others say we were rupa mukti. Yeah, we went rupa siddha. Okay, yeah. And the argument is, okay, that once you go to the spiritual world, you cannot fall down. Many arguments. And back and forth, and becomes a big political thing because one Gaudiya Math guru says this, and it's different than what Prabhupada's saying, and it's for promoting political strength. Our guru knows more than your guru, this kind of thing. Politicized, and the GBC finally made decisions about it, and it became such a political issue. But it's the same thing. As I understand, the other people can also make their comments. The word nitya here is being used the same way that the Mormons use it, right? They talk about it the same way. Eternal doesn't mean a long time, it means no time, right? No time. Okay. when the king sends you to jail, right? Not because of the rules, you're in there eternally, no time. You can be in, and he can send the son to jail just for one night, just to to get the guy to straighten up and start acting properly, And everybody knows, hey, this is the king's son, fella. He's like in jail, but hey, yeah, the king's son. Yeah, yeah. Okay. And but if you're there because of the rules and regulations, okay, then you're in for a certain time. This is going to happen. Everything else like that. So that's what nitya in this sense, eternal. It means no time. It's nice. It's under the influence of the transcendental decisions, right? It's transcendental operation. And I've heard the Prabhupada said, I'd like to find it, that you are nitya bada until you become nitya siddha. Yeah. You are eternally liberated because your liberation in the material world does not depend upon the rules and regulations. Yeah. Ultimately, you're going to get out of the material world, out of your binding, because Krishna decides you're ready. Yeah, we can follow the rules and regulations, but Prabhupada says you can follow them forever. And Krishna is not bound to reciprocate everything else. But if we're following the king's rules and regulations, and the king notices that, and he takes it as kind of a personal thing. So in the higher levels, it does become where this is the way we show our love, by doing these things. And in that sense, and he says, okay, now let's start talking personally about what's going on here. Yeah. So that's what I understand. They're probably saying, that we are eternally bound up in the material world, and there's no beginning to it, no end. We don't know. Prabhupada says we don't know how we got. Prabhupada says we don't know how we got here, but he says Krishna knows. Okay, we did something that was so stupid, so ridiculous that we are afraid to remember it. Oh God, I did something so stupid, so ridiculous. I was casting lustful glances at Radharani. Yeah, something probably not that. Well, maybe I don't know. It could be that weird, but it was just something, something. And so that's what happened when we come up to the final point. We're almost liberated and everything else, but we're still so embarrassed what we did. So that point, then Guru gives us a shove, and we fall down and say, "I'm really sorry for the stupid stuff and whatever." And that's sambandha. No, sambandha at the lotus feet of Krishna. Yeah. So the last point, Bhava Bhakti, it has to be more than just, following rules and regulations. It takes some association like that. So, okay. And then now we're Nitya Mukta. Yeah. And again, when you go back in Galoka, there's kind of no distinction here, whether you were Nitya Bhada or whatever. If you fell into the spiritual world, fell in the material world, didn't fall in the material world. Yeah. Okay.
So then, thank you, Maharaj. Thank you for that clarification. And maybe the second part of that question is, so do we, according to GBC, or Prabhupada also writes this, so do we originally, eternally, or originally we were in the spiritual world and we came here? Of course, that's an event. That's an event outside the time and space. I understand that, but 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 uh, in the sense of logic, were we in the spiritual world before coming here, or we were eternally here? We were never in the spiritual world.
What do you mean by logic?
Not maybe I'm not using the proper word, but
Yeah.
let me
It's a very tricky
rephrase
word.
my question. Let me
But,
rephrase
but
my
hang
question.
on, 1 second. Okay. Usually, that's part of the problem, because usually when we use the word logic in the West, the industrialized civilization, we're talking about Euclid's principles, about points, lines, hierarchies, all this stuff. You can't even count without Euclid's principles. And so that's why it permeates everything we're talking about. But in Christianity, Jesus Christ is the Logos. The very, very famous phrase is Gospel according to John. It starts off in his English, it says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, was God, and became man." In Spanish, it says, "In the beginning was the Verb, And the verb was with God, was God, and became man. In the original Greek, it says, in the beginning was the Logos, and the Logos was with God, was God. So in Christianity, to be logical, you see what it means? To be logical in Christianity means to be connected, to Guru. Yeah, it's a much more subtle point. Yeah. And that's kind of one thing is that we're talking about, we're not talking, you cannot explain it in terms of Euclid's principles. Yeah. Even the square root of 2 you can't explain in terms of Euclid's principles. You can't explain pi in terms of Euclid's principles. Yeah. Okay, so that's the first thing we're talking about. We talk about it, and Prabhupada says when we're liberated, when we're in the spiritual world. But even when Prabhupada's nephew, who's preaching, about couldn't have come from a relationship. Even he says it's incomprehensible. The books they're quoting, Jaiva Dharma and stuff, it says the same thing. It says as long as you. And so Prabhupada says about the argument. He says whether we were, what does it go, Nitya Rupa or Nitya Siddha or whatever it was, or Shayuja Mukti or Rupa Mukti. He says now you are neither one. Yeah. So just go ahead and engage in the process. Yeah. And you become more purified, then you can begin to see. Because again, like you said, there's no time or space. Well, how did it happen? Why did it happen? Yeah. That question has no meaning. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of, that refers to your question, I think. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes. So I'll for now, I guess.
Doesn't
For now,
matter.
I guess I'll just settle at that originally we came from the spiritual world.
Okay, so this is okay. They're quoting from Jaiva Dharma, where it says that all the Atmas come from the association of Balaram, and they fall in the material world. That association with Balaram, it could mean, well, because I'm reading all the citations. Sometimes Prabhupada talks about, developing your spiritual body and going to the spiritual world. And sometimes he talks about, one place he says, we were in Goloka with Krishna, but somehow or other we did not like to serve Krishna. Right? Yeah. And then we turned away from Krishna. Yeah. So, yeah, all the arguments and everything else. Yes, we could have been in a relationship, and then maybe, we were in some Shantaras or this and that, and now maybe we're promoting ourselves. Maybe we came to the material world to actually, make progress. So a little bit more complicated, but yes, we could have been in some relationship with Krishna, and you can fall from Goloka to Dwarka. You put the spoon 1/4 of an inch in the wrong place, and Lalita raises her eyebrow, and suddenly you're in Dwarka. Yeah, and then you say, "Oops," and okay, then you're back again. Yeah. So you can fall from Goloka to Mathura, Mathura to Ayodhya, Ayodhya to Vaikuntha, Vaikuntha to Mahavishnu Loka, and everybody who enters the material world is Lord Brahma. One citation, and right at that point, you can say, "Hey, forget it." Okay, yeah, you can get out again. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
So
you,
I think
Maharaj.
anything else? Any final from our paying audience? Yeah. Yeah.
So, Maharaj, I would like to thank you. There's no questions so far now. So, thank you for accepting this invitation, and thank you for your enlightening association, wonderful association with all NOI through the NOI chapters. It's me who requested you in Guadalajara, Maharaj, if you remember. Back then there in February somewhere. So you were staying for a month or two. And Maharaj, we have a next invitation and request to you. Please come to Pakistan. And I will be highly honored to have a company with you there. I'm still in Malaga, Maharaj. I'm serving here as my new service here in Malaga. So Maharaj, I can always make a point to accompany you if you plan to come to Pakistan. So we have this invitation for you, Maharaj. Whenever you feel next you have your schedule, please make a visit to Pakistan. And we'll be
one more class.
We have one more class. I think Mari is logged out. So was it the last class or the second last class?
No, it's second last class. And I guess
Oh.
his like more computer got power off because his status was very low.
Okay. Oh, I was told it was the last class. So we should have this Thanksgiving the next day. Oh, so Mari is going to come again? Could you coordinate? What do you say, Damni Mataji?
We can end the class.
Okay. So we thank and wish Prerna Mulani Mataji here. She has a birthday today. She wanted to take the blessings of all the devotees. So one time Hari Bol for Prerna from all sides. All of us. Hare Krishna. Hari Bol. So we wish and pray that you may progress on your spiritual journey and meet Krishna at the end and perfect your life in this very lifetime. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dhamma pranams.
So I thought I'll do in front of Maharaj, but someone since you requested. What's your word? So tomorrow is
Okay. Thank you for all of you and you especially. Thank you for your blessings.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.